Well, in the bill that Congressman McCall and Congresswoman Matsui and Senator Warner and I introduced, it has a tax credit that would be available as an incentive. As you know, many states have their own incentive programs to encourage job creation in their states, but this is really necessary in order to compete with China. China is making huge financial investments in everything from 5G to artificial intelligence to quantum computing, and we know what they're doing, and they don't have to go through an appropriations process. They don't even go through elections. They just do it, and we need to compete.
Man, China's putting $1 trillion in their digital economy. We have to compete with that. That's one thing we found out from the report with the recommendations. And I think really what we authorize in the National Defense Authorization provides a grant program through the Department of Commerce, also a research and development investment. But I think the refundable investment tax credit is going to be key, and that's what the semiconductor industry has really asked us for, to get that tax credit that pays for the cost up front. It's a very cost-heavy, intensive endeavor, but we have to do this to compete with China long term.
Are you satisfied the executive order has enough teeth? It orders a review, but no specifics yet about how it's going to address some of these supply shortages?
Well, I mean, it's general in tone, but it's what it signaled for me from the President of the United States that this is a high priority. That within the first 4 weeks of his presidency, he's saying, I got a call from Secretary Blinken and Jake Sullivan, and we talked about this report, and we talked about supply chain, and we talked about the Chips for America Act. And so I do think this is a strong signal to him that he's all in. What I find refreshing is you got both the senator and myself. We represent a tech state, particularly Austin. We've got Speaker Pelosi in Silicon Valley, Senator Schumer with Global Founders in New York. This thing's really coming together, and it's going to be good for the United States. And it's a good bill for Americans and trying to get us out of this partisan divide we're in.
So was there any discussion about the Defense Production Act being utilized at all?
There was some mention about the Defense Production Act, but I think there's also a recognition that we need to do more than just rely on the Defense Production Act. The market, as Senator Warner said, the market will not solve this problem because they're looking for the low-cost producer, and typically that's overseas. But what, as I said, this virus has done is it's exposed our vulnerability, and the most common one is with hand sanitizer and PPE that we're familiar with. But really, this has to do with our ability to maintain our ability to defend ourselves and to compete with China. They are on the march. They're telling us exactly what they're going to do in Made in China 2025. They're a serial stealer of our intellectual property, and we have to defend ourselves and we have to compete. That's what this is all about. Thanks.
Can I ask you one more question briefly?
Okay.
Can you respond to the criticism that it's unfair for Republicans to criticize Neera Tanden's tweets, given a lot of lawmakers largely ignored former President Trump's tweets for so many years?
Well, I think I can stipulate that there's been a lot of incivility when it comes to Washington, D.C. and how we communicate and talk to each other. Ms. Tanden has been bipartisan in her criticism of everybody from Bernie Sanders to Joe Manchin and others. Clearly, she was nominated because of her political credentials, and frankly, it's because of the lack of Democratic support that her nomination is likely to fail. But I would just say that we could all learn a little lesson here, I think, about increasing the civility in the way we treat each other in a very polarized country. Thanks.
Thank you.